All right, so welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. And boy, oh boy, Serie A did not disappoint this weekend, did it? I mean, talk about a weekend packed with just edge of your seat
It
action.
really was.
Yeah.
The moment you glance at the results, you see a story in every single scoreline.
Right, exactly. So many close calls, late winners, some draws sprinkled in there. It's a league where it feels like every single point is earned, not given.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating is you see that reflected in the variety of ways these teams are finding success or, coming up just short.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we want to unpack today. We've gone through all the matches again and pulled out what we think are the most interesting and important things to notice. Not just, the obvious stuff, but those little details that tell a bigger story.
Exactly. So looking across all 10 matches this weekend, a few key themes really jump out at you.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, first off, just the sheer resilience on display. We saw multiple teams battling back from deficits, refusing to just roll over.
Oh, for sure. That never say die attitude is definitely something you see a lot in Syria.
Right. And then on the attacking side, you had moments of pure individual brilliance, but also some really well-coordinated team goals, showing the depth of attacking talent in this league.
And on the flip side, I was really impressed with some of the defensive performances, too.
Oh, absolutely. Some really solid, well-drilled defenses out there, making life incredibly difficult for even the most potent attacks.
Yeah, and speaking of making life difficult, can we talk about set pieces for a second? It felt like every other goal this weekend came from a corner or a free kick.
You're not wrong. Set pieces were absolutely crucial, and we'll definitely be digging into some of the specific examples and what they tell us about these teams.
Plus, beyond just the goals and the final scores, there were some really interesting tactical battles going on, particularly in the midfield. You could see managers adjusting their approaches based on their opponent and the flow of the game.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Those tactical nuances add another layer of intrigue to these matches, and it's something we definitely want to highlight for you guys.
Okay, so with all that said, why don't we dive right in and start with the big one? Roma versus Juventus. Now, this is always a match that gets the blood pumping, and this weekend was no exception.
No exception at all. Both teams came in with something to prove, and the intensity was there right from the first whistle.
Yeah, and Juventus struck first, right?
Yeah.
Chiesa with that beautiful goal from outside the box.
43 minutes in,
Oh,
curled it right past the keeper. It was more than just a goal. It was a statement.
like we're here to play.
Exactly. And I think what was interesting about that goal was how Juventus initially set up. They were clearly focused on denying Roma space in the midfield, trying to corrupt their build-up play. And it was a moment where Roma maybe relaxed their pressure a little, that Chiesa found that opening.
But, you can never count Roma out. They always seem to find a way back, and they did just before halftime, Abraham with the classic header.
Oh, a beautiful goal.
Yeah.
That cross from Pellegrini was just begging to be headed in, and Abraham timed his run perfectly to lose his marker.
Yeah, and what I liked about that goal was Roma's patience in the build-up. They didn't panic after going behind. They kept probing, looking for weaknesses in that Juventus defense, and eventually they found it.
Yeah, and to me that speaks volumes about their mentality.
Mhm.
They're not a team that gets rattled easily. They have
Oh.
belief in their system and they trust their teammates.
And they almost found a winner, too, in the second half, right? Dybala with that rocket that hit the post.
Oh man, so close. That would have been the perfect ending to their comeback story.
Yeah, it felt like Roma really stepped up their intensity in the second half, putting Juventus under a lot more pressure.
They definitely did. They pushed their fullbacks higher up the
Mhm.
pitch, started creating more width,
Yeah.
and that forced Juventus to adjust their defensive shape. I think that shot from Dybala came as a direct result of that change in approach from Roma.
So, big picture, what are the key takeaways from this draw?
Well, for Roma, you have to be impressed with their resilience and their ability to adapt during the game. They didn't just stick to one plan. They adjusted based on what Juventus were doing, and they almost pulled off the win.
And for Juventus, I mean, an away point against a tough opponent isn't a bad result.
No, not at all. And I think it highlights their defensive strength even when under pressure. They bent a little in the second half, but they didn't break.
Okay, let's move on to another match that had plenty of goals. Milan versus Fiorentina, ending 2-2. This one sounded like a real back and forth battle.
It was a really exciting match, both teams showcasing their attacking strengths, but also revealing some defensive vulnerabilities.
And it started with a bang, right? Leon with that stunning solo goal for Milan.
Oh, yeah, a goal that will be on highlight reels for weeks to come.
Yeah.
The way he just sliced through the Fiorentina defense, his pace, his control, and then that clinical finish, it was just breathtaking.
And the thing that impressed me most about that goal was his directness. There was no hesitation, no messing about. He saw the space and he went for it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just have to admire that kind of individual brilliance.
Yeah.
But Fiorentina, they weren't going to let that goal get them down. They responded almost immediately.
Yeah. Gonzalez with the equalizer from a set piece.
Yeah.
And that's something we saw a lot this weekend, the importance of those dead ball situations.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, a well-executed set piece can be just as effective as a brilliant individual effort. And Fiorentina clearly had a plan for that corner kick. They overloaded one side of the box, creating space for Gonzalez to attack the cross, and the finish was excellent.
Then Milan regained the lead through Giroud, right? A classic poacher's goal.
Textbook stuff. Milan win the ball back in their own half, launch a quick counterattack, and Giroud is there in the right place at the right time to slot it home.
And, you can't teach that kind of awareness and experience that Giroud has. He just knows where to be in the box to anticipate those chances.
Exactly. And for Milan to be able to score from both open play like Leon's goal and then a quick counterattack like Giroud's, it shows their versatility in attack.
Yeah. But Fiorentina just refused to go away. Late equalizer from Bonaventura. And what a goal that was.
Talk about a moment of magic. From that distance to get the power and the accuracy to beat the keeper, it was unstoppable.
And what I found interesting about that goal was how Milan had a couple of opportunities to clear the danger before Bonaventura even got his shot off.
Right. There might have been a slight lack of composure there, a little bit of panic as Fiorentina turned up the pressure late in the game.
So for both teams, what are the big takeaways from this 4-goal thriller?
For Milan, it confirms what we already knew. They have a potent attack with multiple threats. They can hurt you in a variety of ways, and they're always dangerous going forward.
And for Fiorentina to come away from the San Siro with a point after going behind twice, that's a pretty good result.
Absolutely. It shows their resilience, their never-give-up attitude, and I think it also highlights their ability to find different ways to score. They got a goal from a set piece and then Bonaventura's wonder strike from long range.
Yeah, that versatility makes them a really tough opponent to game plan against. Okay, let's talk about another 2-2 draw, this one between Parma and Inter. Now, this was a match that really caught my eye because it felt like both teams were playing with their handbrake off offensively.
Yeah, it was a really open and entertaining match. Both sides showing their attacking quality, but also perhaps exposing some defensive frailties.
And it was Inter who drew first blood, right? Martinez with a really well-taken goal.
Oh, yeah, that was a fantastic team goal. It all started with their patient build-up play in the midfield, drawing Parma's defenders out of position, creating those little pockets of space, and then bang, a quick series of passes, and Martinez is there to apply the finishing touch.
You could see the quality of their movement off the ball, the way they were constantly creating passing options for each other. It was really impressive.
Absolutely. It's that kind of intricate interplay that makes Inter such a threat in the final third. They can unlock defenses with their passing, or they can hit you on the break with their speed.
But Parma, they hit back quickly, didn't they? Inglesi with a powerful header.
Yeah, that was a great goal, too. Parma showing their threat from crosses, and Inglesi, he's always a danger in the air.
And what I liked about that goal was Parma's commitment to getting numbers in the box. When the ball went wide, you could see their midfielders and even their fullbacks making runs into the penalty area, putting pressure on the Inter defense.
Exactly. And that's something that can be so effective against a team that likes to play a high line like Inter. If you can get the delivery right and you have enough bodies in the box, you're bound to create some chaos.
So it was back and forth, right? Then Barella puts Inter back in front with a well-struck shot from the edge of the box.
Yeah, another quality goal. Barella seems to have this knack for arriving late in the box, finding those little pockets of space, and he's got a great shot on him too.
And it's not just their forwards who can score goals for Inter. They have midfielders who can chip in with goals as well, which makes them even more dangerous.
Absolutely. Yeah. But then just when you thought Inter might run away with it, Parma pulls off another equalizer, Kuka, with that incredible free kick. What can you say about that goal? It was simply stunning. The technique, the power, the placement. It was a goal worthy of winning any game.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to tip your cap to the brilliance of the strike. But from Inter's perspective, they probably felt like they gave away that free kick a little too easily.
Right. You never want to give a player like Kuka an opportunity from that kind of range.
Yeah.
But ultimately, Parma deserves credit for their fighting spirit. They never gave up, and they earned that draw.
So wrapping this one up, what are the main takeaways?
For Inter, their attacking quality is undeniable. They can hurt you in so many ways, from open play to set pieces. They have so many weapons in their arsenal.
And for Parma, coming back twice against a team like Inter, that says a lot about their character.
Absolutely. It shows their resilience, their tactical awareness, and their willingness to take risks in the final third. They didn't just sit back and defend. They went for it, and they got their reward.
Okay, let's switch gears now and look at a match that was a bit more of a tactical chess match. Atalanta losing 0-1 to Lazio. Now, this wasn't a goal fest, but it was still a really intriguing game.
Oh, for sure. This was a match decided by fine margins. And I think Lazio deserves a lot of credit for their game plan. They came in with a clear strategy, and they executed it perfectly.
Yeah, it felt like Lazio really controlled the midfield, especially in the first half. Milinkovic-Savic was pulling the strings, dictating the tempo.
Yeah, he was immense in that midfield battle.
Yeah.
And Atalanta, they struggled to find their usual rhythm in those opening stages. Lazio did a great job of denying them space, closing them down quickly.
And it was Immobile who scored the only goal of the game, right? I mean, the guy just knows how to find the back of the net.
He's a goal-scoring machine, isn't he? And that goal was classic. Immobile making a clever run off the shoulder of the defender, timing his movement perfectly to latch onto that through ball, and then a cool finish past the keeper.
It felt like Atalanta's defense wasn't quite organized enough in that moment. They just switched off for a split second, and Immobile punished them.
Yeah, you can't afford to do that against a player of his quality. He's always lurking, waiting for those opportunities.
In the second half, Atalanta threw everything at Lazio, trying to find an equalizer, but they just couldn't break through.
Lazio's defense stood firm. They were so disciplined, so organized, they limited Atalanta to mostly half chances, and their center backs were excellent dealing with any aerial threat.
So, even though it was a low-scoring game, what are the key lessons we can learn from it?
Well, for Lazio, it shows the importance of having a clear game plan and sticking to it.
Yeah.
They knew how they wanted to play. They controlled the midfield. They were patient in attack. And then when they got their lead, they defended resolutely.
And for Atalanta, even though they lost, they still created some chances, right?
They did. They just lacked that final bit of quality in the final third. You know, they're still a team that can cause any defense problems, but on this occasion, they just couldn't find the breakthrough.
All right, let's move on to a match that was decided by a single goal. Genoa beating Udinese 1-0. This one sounded like a real scrap.
Yeah, it was a tight, tense affair. Both teams showing a lot of determination and tactical awareness.
It was clear from the start that neither team wanted to give an inch.
Yeah, it felt like a real chess match in the first half, with both teams focused on defensive solidity, not giving away any easy chances.
Right. It was all about trying to control the midfield, win those second balls, and then see if you could catch your opponent on the break.
And it was Genoa who found the breakthrough, wasn't it? Destro with a goal from a corner kick.
Another example of how crucial set pieces can be. The delivery was good, but there might have been a slight lapse in concentration from the Udinese defense, allowing Destro to get free in the box.
And those small margins can make all the difference in a tight game, like that one goal was enough to separate the two teams.
Absolutely. And in the second half, you could see Udinese really step up their efforts trying to find an equalizer.
Yeah, Deulofeu had a good chance, didn't he? But Genoa's goalkeeper made a great save. Genoa's keeper was excellent, and their defense as a whole. They were just so determined to hold on to that lead. They put their bodies on the line, they made blocks, they cleared everything that came their way.
So what was a decisive factor in this hard-fought victory for Genoa?
Their ability to take their chance from that set piece, and then their defensive resilience in the second half.
Yeah.
They defended like their lives depended on it.
And for Udinese, despite the loss, what did they show us?
Their attacking intent in the second half was good. They created some chances. They just couldn't find a way past that stubborn Genoa defense.
All right, let's move on to a match where the scoreline wasn't quite so close. Monza losing 1-3 to Como. This one sounded like a dominant performance from Como.
Yeah, Como's were really impressive in this game.
Right.
They came out with a real intensity and purpose, and they took the game to Monza right from the start.
And they got an early goal too, right? Serie opening the scoring.
12 minutes in, and it was a goal that set the tone for the rest of the match. Como were pressing high up the pitch, disrupting Monza's build-up play and forcing them into mistakes.
Yeah, and that high press can be so effective when it's done well. It just puts the opposition under so much pressure, and it can lead to goals like that one.
Absolutely. And Como, they didn't let up after that first goal. They kept their foot on the gas, and they doubled their lead through Gabrieloni just before the half-hour mark.
And what impressed me about that second goal was their movement in the final third. They were constantly creating overloads, finding space behind the Monza defense, and the finish from Gabrieloni was excellent.
Yeah, their attacking interplay was really fluid. They were a joy to watch. Monza did manage to pull one back just before halftime through Scheria, which gave them a glimmer of hope going into the second half.
But Como, they came out strong again in the second half and killed off any hopes of a Monza comeback with Gabrieloni scoring his second of the game.
Yeah, that third goal really took the wind out of Monza's sails. And from that point on, Como just managed the game really well. They maintained their defensive shape, they didn't overcommit an attack, and they still posed a threat on the counterattack.
So what were the key factors in this convincing victory for Como?
Their clinical finishing, their ability to punish Monza's defensive errors, and their effectiveness in transitions, both offensively and defensively.
And for Monza, what will they need to work on after this heavy defeat?
Their defending will be a big concern. Conceding 3 goals at home suggests there are some issues with their organization and their concentration at the back. They need to tighten things up defensively if they want to start getting more positive results.
Okay, let's look at another draw this time between Lecce and Venezia, ending 1-1. This sounded like another really close and competitive match.
Yeah, it was a game where both teams had their moments, but ultimately neither side could find a way to grab the winner.
And it was a cagey first half, wasn't it? Both teams feeling each other out, not wanting to commit too many players forward.
Exactly. There were a lot of tactical battles going on in the midfield, both teams trying to disrupt the other's rhythm and prevent them from building any momentum.
But Lecce eventually took the lead, right? Strefezza capitalizing on a defensive error from Venezia.
Yeah, that's how crucial those individual mistakes can be at this level. Venezia lost possession in a dangerous area, and Lecce, they were quick to pounce. Strefezza made a great run and finished off really well.
So another reminder that even the best teams can be undone by those lapses in concentration.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And Lecce, they deserve credit for making Venezia pay for that mistake.
Yeah.
But, Venezia, they showed good character in the second half. They didn't let their heads drop.
Yeah, they came out strong after the break and found an equalizer through Henry from a corner kick.
Another set-piece goal.
Mm-hmm.
And Henry, he's a big physical presence in the box, and he used that to his advantage to power home that header.
And it's interesting to see how different teams are finding different ways to score this weekend. Some teams relying on individual brilliance, some teams using set pieces to their advantage.
Exactly. It just shows there's no one-size-fits-all approach in this league. You need to be able to adapt to your opponent and find different ways to hurt them.
So Lecce won, Venezia won. What are the key takeaways?
Well, for Lecce, it shows that they're a team that can capitalize on mistakes and punish teams that aren't fully focused.
And for Venezia, getting that away point, thanks to their strength from set pieces, shows that they're not an easy team to beat.
Exactly. They have a clear threat from those dead ball situations, and they know how to use it to their advantage.
Okay, let's move on to a match that didn't have any goals but was still really interesting. Empoli drawing 0-0 with Cagliari. Now, these goalless draws, they can sometimes be a bit dull, but I actually thought this one was quite compelling.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, sometimes a goalless draw can tell you just as much about the teams involved as a high-scoring thriller.
And in this case, what it tells us is that both teams are pretty good defensively, right?
Absolutely. Both sides came in with a clear game plan to be solid at the back, and they executed it really well.
Empoli's defense in particular, they were really impressive, weren't they? Led by Luperto, they just shut down Cagliari's attack.
Yeah, Luperto was immense. He was winning his duels. He was reading the game. Well, he was organizing the back line. He was a real leader out there.
And it wasn't like Cagliari didn't create anything. They had a few half chances. But Empoli's goalkeeper Vicario, he made a couple of crucial saves.
He did. He was in good form, and he deserves a lot of credit for keeping that clean sheet.
Empoli also had the best chance of the game, right? Badrami hitting the post in the second half.
Yeah, that was a great opportunity for them.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it was a game where defenses were on top, chances were at a premium, and both teams will probably feel like they could have maybe snatched a win. But a draw was probably a fair result.
So even though there were no goals, what are the things we should take note of from this match?
Well, for Empoli, it's their defensive solidity. They're clearly a tough team to break down, and that will give them confidence going forward.
And for Cagliari, I mean, keeping a clean sheet on the road is always a positive, but they'll probably be a bit disappointed not to have created more clear-cut chances.
Yeah, they'll want to work on their attacking play a bit more, try to find ways to unlock defenses like Empoli's, because if they can do that, they'll be a real force to be reckoned with.
Okay, let's wrap up this deep dive with one more draw. But this one had a bit of everything. Torino drawing 1-1 with Verona with a red card thrown in for good measure.
Yeah, this was a real roller coaster of a game full of drama and talking points. It had all goals, a red card, some fantastic individual performances, and a lot of tactical intrigue.
And it started with a goal from Torino, right? Sanabria giving them the lead early on.
Yeah, 22 minutes in Sanabria with a well-taken goal. And it was a goal that was the culmination of a really nice team move. Torino showing that they can play some good football when they're on their game.
Yeah, they were patient in their build-up. They moved the ball well. They stretched the Verona defense, and eventually they found the opening for Sanabria to score.
But Verona, they hit back just before halftime, didn't they? The Lazovic with a fantastic free kick. I mean, that was a goal of the highest quality. The technique, the power, the placement was just perfect, and it brought Verona right back into the game.
Yeah, we've seen some incredible free kick goals this weekend, haven't we? It really highlights the importance of having those specialists in your team who can deliver from those dead ball situations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then the second half of this match, well, that's when things really got interesting.
Yeah, Singo getting sent off for Torino just after the hour mark. I mean, that was a huge turning point in the game.
Playing with 10 men for that long against a good team like Verona, that's a massive challenge. But, Torino, they didn't just crumble. They dug in. They showed a lot of character.
Yeah, their resilience was really impressive. They adjusted their shape, they defended deep, they worked their socks off, and for a while it looked like they might actually hold on for the win.
But Verona, they kept pushing, they kept probing, and eventually they found the equalizer through Tomei.
So a draw in the end, but what a game. What are the main takeaways for you?
Well, for Torino, despite the red card, they showed real fighting spirit and tactical discipline. They adapted well to playing with 10 men, and they made life really difficult for Verona.
And for Verona, getting a point away from home against a team that played for over half an hour with a man advantage, they'll probably take that.
Yeah, and their persistence paid off at the end. They kept believing, they kept creating chances, and eventually they got their reward.
Well, there you have it, folks. Another incredible weekend of Serie A football in the books. We saw goals, we saw drama, we saw tactical battles, we saw moments of magic, and we saw some really gritty performances.
We really did. And what's so exciting about this league is that it feels like anyone can beat anyone on any given day.
Yeah.
There's so much quality on display, and the competition is fierce.
Yeah, and that makes it so unpredictable and so much fun to watch. It really leaves you wanting more. I mean, after a weekend like this, I can't wait to see what next week brings.
Me neither. And it'll be interesting to see how these teams build on these performances, how they address their weaknesses, and whether those key themes we talked about, those moments of brilliance, those defensive masterclasses, those set-piece goals, whether those continue to play such a big role in the weeks and months to come.
Yeah, there's still so much to play for this season, and it's going to be fascinating to see how it all unfolds. But for now, that's all the time we have, folks. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive into the world of Serie A, and we'll catch you next time.